Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for coming back and checking out another episode of the Going Yard podcast. Before we get on to this excellent interview, I want to give a little love to one of our partners at B-Ram Sports. The B-Ram Sports hitting rope, you may have remembered us having Chelsea Bramlett on in an earlier episode, actually right around when we first started. Her dad created this rope for her. It's a lightweight, portable hitting tool that provides immediate feedback on your swing, and you can use it anywhere. You can use it at the ball field, your front yard, even at the garage. The Bramletts believe that everyone should have access to a high-quality, affordable hitting device that you can use with your athlete, your team, anywhere. So get your reps in wherever you may be with the B-Ram hitting rope at bramsports.com. And, of course, enter the promo code GYP10 at checkout, and you'll save 10% off.
That is awesome, and I will tell you right now, I just got a second one of these, honestly, because, I've had the one set up at home for my son and daughter to use all the time, and I'm like, man, I get tired of just, not that it's hard, I hate taking it to practices or taking it to games. That way then my daughter who's at home can't use it, so just got a second one, and they're even better. They're using Jugs balls on them now, Jugs wiffle balls on them, and my first one's held up fantastically. So this one here will be just dedicated specifically for the team. And for some product demo stuff that Dan and I will be doing here in the near future. So make sure you check it out. It's for the money, you're not going to find a better warm-up tool for your team or a practice tool in your backyard or in your garage.
That's right. So let's talk about this episode. We had KC Mack on from Mack Provisions. I love talking to him because he does something that's so unique. We've never had anybody on the show that's done this yet. I didn't even know that there was a thing like this. But what he does is he takes vintage gloves from the 50s up to the 70s or 70s and back, whatever the time frame is, which is like the real U.S. leather, and he makes wallets out of them. And it's pretty wild. Yeah, he goes into talk about how he makes it, how long it takes, how to take care of them. We give us a couple gift ideas, especially on this Father's Day. Even though it's going to be a late Father's Day gift, something to think about for sure.
Keep it in the memory bank. This would be a fantastic end of the season gift for a coach. A holiday gift down the road. But I mean, he puts his name and stamps on it. I mean, he backs this thing, and I'm highly impressed with what he gave us to use here. Grateful for it, honestly. But I'll tell you, he gives me hope that good craftsmanship is still out there thriving.
Yep.
And it's a fully made in America product. Make sure you check this out, honestly. He really deserves some love because the craftsmanship and the time that he takes and the care that he cares about the gloves. Like he really has a commitment to the gloves and the players that had their names on the gloves that he's using.
Absolutely. And when you find out how he learned how to make this, it's going to blow your mind. You probably won't be too surprised, but at the same time, it's going to blow your mind. I think it's pretty awesome. So make sure you check out everything he's doing. He also talks a lot about his baseball story, which is pretty awesome too. So a lot of good JUCO talk, the power of JUCO, and I thought that was awesome. So enjoy this episode. Hey, Casey, thanks for coming on and joining us, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I know it's late where you guys are at, so I appreciate you guys having me on.
No, not a problem, not a problem. We look forward to this conversation with you today.
Yeah, perfect.
Hey, actually, don't apologize because we kind of set the schedule and it kind of worked out with our lives, with our kids, sports and all that. So it's all good. We'll make it work here. Thanks for joining us. We're excited for this one. That's for sure. This is something unique that we haven't ever really got to when we get to that part of it.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm excited.
Let's just dive in and talk a little bit about your baseball story from the beginning, kind of. Growing up, playing high school baseball. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I've been playing ball as long as I can remember. Probably t-ball. Baseball was life growing up. I pretty much quit all other sports and focused primarily on baseball. And then. We growing up, I have really fond memories. My parents pretty much owned and operated a quad fourplex stadium. So mom ran concessions and dad did the groundwork. So, and my brother and I were always involved in that. So baseball's always been a part of my upbringing, taught many life lessons. And I guess I can get into, high school and college. I was a catcher and ended up playing 2 years of college ball. My first year was at a CC playing JUCO. And then my next year I transferred to a little D3 called Whitworth University. And after that, I got kind of burnt out and decided to hang up the cleats and move to Alaska.
Whoa. Wow.
What's the baseball scene like up there?
Oh my gosh.
It's actually pretty popular in some of there's a couple collegiate leagues up there, and they have the midnight games where they actually play at midnight because there's still enough light in the summertime. So that's always
insane.
around this time of year during the summer solstice.
So funny thing here, real quick, Casey, before we get too far away, we go in and we look at our stats once in a while, usually like every 2 or 3 weeks, and we've been downloaded in every single state in the United States and over like 50 countries somehow, but we've never had a download that I know of that's tracked at least to Alaska. So maybe you could break through and be the first one for us to push us in the Alaskan market.
Yeah, I should. I probably will. I don't live there now, but I still have tons of people, customers that are up there, so we'll definitely push that to see if we can get some Alaskans to download this.
And listen, we will sponsor a midnight solstice baseball game. I'm saying it now. As long as we can come up and play.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Oh man, I never got to play it, but I know that would be just so much fun. It's not, there's no lights. It's just all, playing by the daylight. And it's seriously
so weird.
Sunny all day. Doesn't go down. So sleeping is kind of hard in the summer.
That's crazy.
Bad. You probably have to have those like black shades just to block any light from coming in your house.
Yeah, 100%. Total blackout shades.
Wow, awesome. Well, hey, let's talk a little bit about. You said you went to JUCO first. Talk about what that did for you. What did JUCO do for you in preparing you to move on to a different level?
Yeah. I'll start off by saying that I played travel ball, and I had 5 teammates that were lined up to play D1 or D2, and all of them got drafted. So I had a lot of teammates that were heavily, chased after by scouts, and I wasn't one of those guys. I didn't have that same following, I guess. And so I ended up signing and getting a scholarship to play at CC ball, which for anybody who's listening and is in that boat, I wouldn't knock it one bit. I met a lot of cool people, made a lot of friends, and the competition, it's not much different. I mean, I had a lot of teammates who ended up, didn't want to play D1 ball and coming and getting like their second or their third year at, JUCO. So the competition isn't any worse. So I would highly suggest it for people who are like me, who didn't have a lot of chase from scouts. So it was a fun experience. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. But I went to a school that was about 6-hour drive away from home, and so I missed family, like a lot of kids probably do when you're in your first year of school. And so I transferred to a little small Christian D3 school in my own hometown, which was nice to be, closer to my parents and still get to play ball and travel and do all that kind of stuff.
So what would you say was the biggest challenge besides just, missing home a little bit? Was it the workouts? Was the competition better? What was the biggest challenge for you?
Yeah, definitely was the skill level. I think a lot of people who go through this process of playing college ball go through those growth spurts where you are competing with guys that are better than you, just 100%. Either they've already had a year in at school and are just way better equipped to play, ball at that next level. So definitely the hardest thing was transitioning into playing with guys who are just better than you, and like coming to grips with that and learning from them who've already been there and done a year of college ball.
So what was the transfer process like for you? Was it smooth? Was it difficult? Was it, seamless? Was it everything you hoped for when you got another opportunity somewhere else?
Yeah, it was pretty seamless. I had a lot of friends who, not a lot, but I had a couple guys that I played with who ended up going there. So it was a foot in the door. Sometimes it's about who you know. So I had teammates from summer ball who went there, and I reached out to the head coach, and he ended up saying, "Yeah, let's do this. Let's make it happen." And going to D3 is it's a kind of a different animal in itself. There's no scholarships. There's no money involved, which is different than any other, even JUCO or NAIA. It's all, there's some sort of scholarship that comes along with it unless you're a walk-on. So it was, I guess, the closest thing to walking on, you know. So yeah, it was fun though. That year was a lot of fun. I had made a lot of friends, got to play some innings and stuff. So it was really a good and rewarding thing. We traveled a lot. We played from Washington State. We played a couple teams in California. So that's always a cool experience for any college kid, is to do that travel, go play ball down in sunny California or Arizona. So yeah.
Right on. Now, I don't want to skip past this because I'm not sure if I don't think you said it actually while we were recording, but before we started this, you had told me that your brother was a pitcher in D1,
Yes.
And I'm just curious how great was that? I mean, you're a catcher, your brother's a pitcher, your parents own this facility. I mean, how you were probably outside playing ball every single minute of your life. Like, how powerful was that to have that sibling and to have those parents to be able to like kind of nurture that for you, that love for the game?
Oh yeah. I mean, 100%. My parents were unbelievably supportive of my brother and I playing ball. It kind of, sometimes when I think about it, I just, feel so humbled and thankful for their commitment. Cause as a parent, and I think you guys know this, it's a lot of your extra time and effort into your kid to go play ball. So yeah, playing, I give my parents so much props to let us play so much baseball. It's just unbelievable. And yeah, my brother, he and I are a lot different physically. I think he's 5'10", maybe 5'9". Little kind of stocky left-handed pitcher, pretty crafty lefty, and I was this 6'1", 210 catcher. So we we were so similar but so different at the same time, just being siblings. But yeah, I caught a lot of bullpens for that kid. I'd like to think that might have helped him get there. But yeah, lots of bullpens, lots of lots of staying out till dark playing baseball.
So I want to ask kind of, what was your college academic experience like that helped set you up kind of for the rest of your life? Were you satisfied with it? Were there some things you learned from it that have helped lead you down the path that you're on now?
Yeah. If I could get any advice to any guy who's looking to go play college ball, is look at how well how well the team helps you be a student first. I went to Whitworth University, and school is super important to them, and so the athletics there really help you, guide you into being a model student. I had my best grades ever when I went to that school because I had so much help, tutors, just all kinds of help for me to be a good student athlete. So yeah, that's 100% like was super helpful. I ended up getting a degree in English, which, I'm obviously not using. But yes, it taught me lots of life lessons to what I do now, as far as just the commitment level, just the commitment to everyday work.
That's excellent. I love how you said that. You became, you learned how to become a student because of the game, and that's pretty cool. And we talk to people every single week, and there's always that someone brings up about you got to learn how to balance it. You got to learn how to make sure that you are a good student first, because if you're not going to be looked at by colleges, and no one's going to want you to play if they know that you can't keep your grades up.
Right.
So 100%. I think that's awesome. So how did you get into doing what you're doing now? Is this something you just, I'm just curious, is it something you just picked up on your own, or was this something you had learned from a family member?
No, this is all 100% YouTube taught.
Whoa.
As far as leather work goes, like I said, I got kind of burnt out on baseball, and that's where I hung up the cleats and moved to Alaska. And I'd spent about 5 years up in Alaska just exploring, loving, working, just doing the Alaska life. And but I had this, nagging thought in the back of the mind of how much I missed baseball. And as far as I can remember, I've always been into antiques and old junk, and had been collecting vintage baseball mitts since I think I was 12. And I remember having one that was completely falling apart, but it had really good leather on it. And I thought, man, that'd be cool to turn that into something. And from there, it's kind of evolved into what it is now, my everyday life, gutting mitts and turning them into wallets.
So, and let our listeners know what the name of it is.
Yeah, so I am own a company called Mack Provisions, and what I do is I take vintage mitts, which are from anywhere from the 30s to the 70s, all made in America mitts, and turn them into everyday carry items like wallets, key fobs, keychains. So I'm taking the old leather that's not really being used by kids these days, and turning them into something that will be used.
Now, that is incredible, because I'm not a very crafty person, I guess. I don't even know what the word would be, but I'm not very, Dan's the musician here. He writes songs, writes music. He's very creative, and I'm not. So for me, I'm like mind blown by what you sent us here to look at.
Yeah. And I've always, even in school, I was very into art. I mean, I was really in high school, did lots of drawing and was very heavily into it. So for me, I've always been into that kind of creative mind. I write left-handed, but played baseball all right-handed. So I'd like to think lefties are pretty creative and crafty.
That's your problem, Tyler.
That is my problem.
Yep, there it is.
I would agree. My brother's left-handed, and he's a singer-musician as well.
Yep. I don't know what it is, but I think lefties just, my girlfriend's a lefty, and she's the same way. She's an artist, and I think there's that, left-handed craftiness to it.
I don't know why I said that. I'm a right-handed guy as well, so I don't know why.
You think very left with that brain, though. You really do.
I don't know, but that's pretty awesome, man. Like I loved, and actually, ironically, the one that because I just picked one because it was delivered to my house, and I was like, all right, I'll give Tyler this one, and I opened
you
it.
Got first dibs.
Yeah, I got first dibs, but I didn't even realize that it would have the information in there, like it tells you, whose glove, who was on the glove. Can you actually just talk to people, like when they order a wallet from you, what comes along with it, just so they know, when they get this, what they're going to receive.
Yeah, 100%. So I really have put a lot of time and effort into not only making the item, by hand, but also trying to create a package for you to kind of see the before and after. And so with every wallet, I include a picture of the glove before I tore it apart. And I also include kind of an about what I do in my process. And so kind of you get to hold the after while looking at the before, the mitt, and you can see what it looked like, which is really neat. I think people love seeing that, and anybody who's ever seen, or been into baseball can tell that these mitts are totally vintage. They're old. They're, even some of the names you look up on them are guys who played, 60, 70 years ago. So it's a lot of fun for that. And for me, I kind of revel in the nostalgia of the game, it being the American pastime and stuff. And at the same time, I kind of literally destroy it. I turn it into something else. So it's really, I think, a really neat thing for my customers to see the before and after.
Yeah, I think I thought that was the coolest thing ever, and actually, I didn't realize at first that it had the glove type whose name on. I didn't realize I didn't look at that card at first. I just saw the picture and I was like, oh my gosh, the one I got was Boog Powell, which ironically, Tyler and I are both Orioles fans, and
we love his food.
Yeah, and we love his food. Every time we go to Camden Yards, he has Boog's barbecue there, and I felt bad because I got the Orioles one. But
I did know this, and I was like, I'm going to send that. I was curious to see who would get it. So that's funny.
But Tyler got Gil McDonald, so
yeah,
it's still
shout
awesome.
Out Gil. Shout out Gil. Whoever.
Shout out to Gil.
However old you might be now, I don't know Gil.
I think he's gone, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm assuming. One thing I wanted to ask you is, where do you obtain these gloves for? Is it something you look for online, yard sales, craft show? I mean, how do you obtain the products that you're working with?
Yeah, that I would say, before I say where, I'd say this is my chunk of time. My girlfriend Lindsay would attest that I spend a lot of time on my phone looking for mitts. So I have a couple people back east and a guy in Texas who are always looking for me, and they're like professional garage sailors. So they're always looking, and they know what kind of stuff I want. And so it's either that or eBay. It's kind of my two routes. So I'm always on the prowl, spending countless hours looking.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, do you also take special requests? Let's just say, for me, for example, I have a glove that I found. We were actually camping in West Virginia, and I found a glove in a field. No lie, I think it's from maybe 1970, 1969, somewhere around there, but it's got, Mickey Mantle signature in there. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I got it restitched. I used it from probably age 7 to, 12 or something like that. Then it got too small for me. But if I were to say, hey, I want this made into a glove or, a keychain or something like that, is that something where we could send to you and then you could do it?
Oh, yeah, 100%. It happens all the time. I have a lot of customers who reach out and say, like, for example, last summer I had a lady send me her late husband's glove. He had passed. She was getting rid of all of his stuff, cleaning out. And one of the things that she wanted to get rid of was this mitt that he used. And she stumbled upon me somehow, and she really wanted to have it turned into a couple of bifolds to send to her two boys. So, yeah, I do it all the time. A lot of people love that. If you're willing to part ways and let me gut your glove, yeah, I do it all the time. So it's that's kind of it's a lot more fun when I get to do that instead of some random mitt that you have no really backstory on how it was used or who used it. If you send me your mitt that you used, I think there's something more special there.
So out of a whole glove, like we send you, like a glove, just a general infielder's glove from back. I mean, they're all kind of about the same size, I guess, from back then, really.
Right.
What all can you make out of a glove? I mean, does it take two gloves? Does it take just one glove? I mean, how does that process work for you?
Yeah, sometimes I have to piecemeal from multiple gloves. But, like, for example, that Luke Powell mitt was a big first baseman. So I made two bifolds and two card holders. Those are my kind of my bread and butter is I offer a bifold, which is bigger. And the first baseman stretches that whole length of for the bifold, and then miscellaneous parts will make the card holder, which is what you guys are carrying. So something like that I can make more out of. So I'm always on the prowl for first base and catcher's mitts. But like the Mickey Mantle glove, I could probably maybe make 2 card holders. So what you guys are holding, this little the card holder carries probably 7 to 10 credit cards, maybe some folded up cash. So it's a small little carrying sleeve.
That's excellent.
I know what Owen's going to be getting one day.
Yeah, really. Well, this is like this episode is going to be coming out on the Father's Day weekend, and I want to make sure that this clip gets out to people that are looking for a Father's Day gift. It might not. I don't know how fast you can make them, but this is just a good gift. Even if it's a late Father's Day gift, this is awesome. Like if I could just think of so many things, so many opportunities, to, like whether it's for a birthday, Christmas, or if you have your grandfather's glove and you want to, it's just sitting in your basement and your dad, doesn't know what to do with it, but doesn't want to get rid of it. Make it into a wallet for your dad. Like something like that. I think it's so cool, and it's such a cool idea, and I've never seen it done before.
Yeah, I think so too. It's my lead time as I've grown gets larger and larger and larger, just because I am a one guy show. Everything's hand cut, hand stitched, handmade. I don't use a sewing machine. Everything is done by a traditional saddle stitch. So there's a lot of time that goes into making these. So I would say I can get things done and out in about a week or 2. Depending on what it is. But yeah, if anybody needs a Father's Day gift or late one, please, get in touch with me.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's kind of cool is I was just about to ask you. You said it's all hand stitched. I was going to ask how you do that. And then for the one we're holding here, which I'm assuming most of them, all of them probably do, is it has your logo, in it, which is super neat and looks really nice, and it's actually fantastic looking. Honestly, it's just so subtle. Honestly, it looks really cool.
Yeah, I put a lot of time and effort into trying to get the finished product to be as neat as possible. I mean, there's a lot of hours that even go into that. So I'm taking something like this baseball mitt that catches something round. So in itself, it's got some curves to it, and so I have to tear it apart, wet it, try to get it to lay flat. I've got a 4-ton clicker press that I use to press the leather down to lay as flat as possible, and then from there I cut it out. Everything's glued together, hand stitched, and then all my edges are burnished with beeswax that I get from a 3rd generation beekeeper. So I try to put a lot of time and effort into that, looking as clean as possible.
And I love that you're using all of the the guy, the beeswax, third generation beeswax guy. You're using local people or people in the U.S. Is it absolutely a U.S. product, and I think this is great, especially since it's America's pastime that we're talking about here. That's awesome that you do that.
Yeah, you hit it on the money. I really in the late 60s to early 70s, they really baseball mitt manufacturers really started to outsource a lot of their mitts to Korea, Japan, Taiwan, China. And so when that happened, the quality of leather really decreased. And so all the gloves that I use were originally made in America with American tanned leather, like Rawlings to this day uses Horween leather. And so anytime you get a one of my wallets that is made from a Rawlings glove, even that leather that was used was tanned by Horween in Chicago. So I think it's through and through an American-made product, even into the glove itself. But the only thing that isn't American-made is the thread. It's I use a waxed linen thread from a French company who's been doing it since the 1700s. So I guess I justify using a nice French linen thread, because if without the French, we probably would have never won the American Revolutionary War. So that's my only falter, I guess.
Now, I had a question I wanted to ask you. So this nice little card holder I got here. What would you recommend is the best way to treat it? You know, in and out my pocket 100 times, throwing it in on my dash of my car or in the center console. What should
Yeah.
I do to keep this thing nice and soft like it is right now? Is it that
Yeah.
beeswax I need to get hold of or something?
No, I stock a leather balm on my website. It's made by a guy named Shane, and he owns a company called Smith's Leather Balm. It's all natural ingredients. It's if anybody's on social media, you can just go to Instagram and look at what he does. Him and his wife hand pour and hand make this leather balm that's unbelievable. So every wallet that I make gets a coat of it on there, so it comes pretty soft and treated. And so he sells tins of those. I have it on my website. I sell a ton of them. And I think you could even condition your boots, the glove that you use now with it. So I would say go get in touch with Shane.
So what would you say is your favorite project you've ever had to do?
Favorite project.
Favorite wallet, favorite glove that was sent to you, meaning all the above.
I have a appreciation for Mickey Mantle, and anybody who's ever studied his life knows that he lived a pretty rough life, even though he was pretty dang good ball player. So anytime I've gotten a Mickey Mantle glove, I always cherish that. And one in particular, I had a customer from Texas who sent me his Mickey Mantle glove that was a Triple Crown Rawlings one, and I've always loved that one, and I have before and after pictures of it, and that's probably my favorite. Anytime I get a Mickey Mantle glove, that's where it's at. Or a Yogi Berra. If I just recently did a Yogi Berra mitt, repurposed one of those, and as a catcher, I always liked Yogi Berra, and he always had the best saying. So those are kind of my two guys that I just love. They also happen to be Yankees, and so I always, as a Mariner fan, kind of hate that part. But yeah,
I was wondering what was going to come next.
Ken Griffey walked him all, or Ken Griffey scored to beat him in the playoffs. That's all I remember. No.
Yep, 98. I remember. Oh yeah. It's hard to anybody who's growing up in the Northwest like me. You end up kind of idolizing Griffey, and
we did in the Mid Atlantic too. Don't worry.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was our life, man. I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Well, yeah. Any '90s or '80s kids, knows Ken Griffey Jr.
Dan was a Jay Buhner fan.
I was.
Oh yeah, the bone. Yeah,
Yep.
That's awesome. He was cool, and he even still does some of the broadcasting for them.
Really?
Still kind of involved with the Mariners and comes on every once in a while. So it's always fun to see when he comes on. And I remember kids, if you wanted to come to a game, would get your head shaved like the bone, and he would shave kids' heads. So he was one of my favorite too.
And didn't they had Tino and Edgar, didn't they?
Tino and Edgar Martinez, yeah.
Yep. Oh,
Man, that was fun to watch.
It was a good old day.
Joey Cora.
Joey Cora, yeah.
Yeah.
Joey Cora, and now it's hard to think about, but Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez.
Hey, A-Rod he was a Mariner when he kicked Cal Ripken back over to shortstop in the All-Star game.
That's right, he was.
That.
Yep, 100%. So yeah, it's always kind of leaves you a bad taste in your mouth when you talk about A-Rod, but
another Yankee.
As a Mariner fan, so
nah, hey, we got off topic a little bit here. Honestly, I wanted to ask you: do you offer like any sort of guarantee to the products that you're making, or is there a warranty with it, or anything that people would be interested to know?
Yeah, a lot of times I'll find mitts that are cracked and it's dehydrated, so I don't even offer any of my items that are like that. So I think there's a couple guys out there who make stuff like me who use cracked leather, and I just won't do it. So there's a guarantee that I won't do that. But if you ever buy one of my wallets and need it to be restitched or repaired in any way, yeah, I'd love to. It's always fun to get those that come back and I end up restitching it. I've been doing this since 2014, so I've definitely had some people who've worn the thread down just from daily use. and they send it back, and I'll restitch it for free. So yeah.
So what's your primary way of selling? I mean, did you get into flea markets? Did you get into, eBay, or, I mean, you got your own website? What are the ways you're selling the products? And
Yeah.
is there ways for people to pick out like, oh, there's that player's glove, I want to use that one. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, on my website. Yeah, so it's just mackprovisions.com. The cool thing about ordering through specifically me, it's a lot of fun. I have an option where a drop-down menu. You can either get a random wallet, or if you want to pay a little bit more, I have a pick your own glove option where you get a Dropbox link that has all the pictures of the gloves that I currently have in my quiver. So you get to pick out your favorite glove, and then I make it from it.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's before we go any further with, because we want to get into some of your goals here down the road, but I want to, just for our listeners who are interested and they're hearing this, they're like, well, okay, well, are these super expensive? I know he's doing it handmade, so obviously you're gonna pay for what you get. But can you talk a little bit about the pricing of your bifolds or your card carriers like we have? What does your pricing look like?
Yeah. Yeah. So the card holders that you guys have, they start at 60, and then my bifolds are 150, and everything else in between is everything in my lineup is somewhere in between there. My bifolds are my most expensive. Each one takes about 4 hours to make, so that gives you kind of an idea of what it takes to make one of these, because there is a lot of time and effort into gutting a glove and getting it flat and cleaned and conditioned, and then getting it just prepped to be turned into a wallet. So there's a little bit of time, and I think price reflects it. But I think once you get your hands on it, you see the kind of quality that and the craftsmanship that I take pride in. So yeah, that's kind of where it's at. Anywhere between $60 to $150.
The first thing I did when I opened this thing up today, when I got home, like any baseball player, you're going to pick it up. The first thing you do is smell it.
Smell it. I was about to say.
First thing you do is smell it, and it just kind of, that smell just kind of takes you back. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I just did a local show here in my hometown. I live in Port Angeles, Washington, and we just did this show, and I'd say probably 75% of the people who bought a wallet ended up smelling it before, so it had some sort of correlation.
Sold.
It smells like your old ball glove, and I think people kind of cherish that for some reason.
Now, if people start spitting on them and rubbing them, does you get a discount? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, I guess if you want to spit on my wallet, you're gonna end up buying it.
That's great. No. If you can, Casey, can you just talk a little bit about what some of your future goals are here moving forward with, the business or personally, if there's anything else you'd like to get into?
Yeah. I do kind of want to expand my lineup to have a little bit, I guess, more women's wallets. I kind of cater to men, and I think a woman's baseball glove wallet would be really neat. Now, I don't make one because I'm not a woman. So thankfully, my girlfriend Lindsay has a kind of an eye for designing that kind of stuff. So that's something along the road. Just to kind of back up a little bit, I would, and if anybody wants to do anything like this or start their own baseball brand, I'd highly encourage it. I think this has been a rocky experience for me, a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of strife, or just sometimes there were points where I was struggling, and this is my full-time gig, and so I would encourage people doing this and starting their own business, because it definitely teaches you a lot about yourself and what you want to do and who you want to be as far as your brand and putting your name on your brand. It's been a huge process for me.
I had to ask this. I didn't have this written down, but when you were talking about doing that, you said it takes about 4 hours to make one of one of the wallets. What do you do? Like, I'm not sure how many you make a day, but what do you do to get into that mode? I mean, baseball players have a way to get into the zone. Everyone has this thing called flow. People have
Right.
very creative minds and think differently. These crazy left-handers. What do you do to find that flow to get into it? Do you listen to music? Do you do yoga? Do you meditate? What is it?
So, well, I listen to Going Yard podcast when I'm
Perfect.
cutting gloves. So, shameless shout out to you guys.
Love it.
But yeah, I've been kind of slacking lately. But usually my schedule is I get up at either between 4 or 5 in the morning, and the day before prep the gloves that I know that I want to take apart. And I think there's a lot of the end of my work day that I prep for the next day. So that immediately gets me into it. Honestly, I do a lot of listening to podcasts just because it helps me think while I'm doing this. Coffee goes a long way. So when I get up in the morning, I'll admit I drink a lot of coffee, and that gets me going. But I think the night before, I prep what I want to do for the next day, and I think that's a huge reason why I get started in the morning, because I've got everything ready to go for what I'm doing.
Now, is it one thing I wanted to ask real quick before we wind down? Is it like a start to finish type thing, or do you do it in pieces? Like, you cut all the pieces one day. Like, how do you do that? Is that,
Yeah,
if that makes sense? Sorry.
No, it totally makes sense. I do it in pieces. So one day I'll spend a day and get just filthy ripping apart mitts, and then the next I'll get them all cut, and I do them in steps like that. So I'll get them all prepped to stitch. So everything's hand stitched, and so I'll do all my saddle stitching in a big pile. I'll have a big pile of wallets that I need to stitch them, and then after that I'll get all my edges sanded and burnished all in one pile. I kind of break them into piles, and so whenever I'm working on like a wholesale account, I'll have anywhere from 12 to 24 or whatever amount of wallets that I make. So I make them in a huge bunch like that. And for whatever reason, if I have a big pile, I get it done in a really efficient manner.
I bet I can just picture you now walking through like flea markets or antique shops or old baseball stores with baseball cards and all this stuff, and just staring at these gloves like, man, I'd love to just tear you apart.
So yeah, it's a sad. I think I've had multiple like owners of antique stores go like, what do you want this glove for? And I go, well, it's my business. I tear them apart, and they just kind of hurt a little bit because I think they like
right.
the piece as is, and I'm looking and itching to just rip it apart. You're 100% right. I just and that's what I do. There's a lot of antique stores, a lot of antiquing that goes on, and I am on a mission usually, and there's a lot of cool stuff, but I've somehow trained myself just to look for a brown piece of leather, and it's fun when I do find some. It's like Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's crazy, man. And I just love that idea, and I'm glad I have that Mickey Mantle glove, because honestly, all it's doing, my son's never going to use it because it's a big heavy glove, and it's it's kind of stiff at the moment, but it's in decent shape, at least in the palm, and it's just going to sit in my garage in a box, and it's never going to be used. I'm going to pass it down to him, and he's going to be like, well, this is my dad's, and it's in a box, so I might as well do something with it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. A lot of times when you put your glove away and let it sit like that, leather has its natural oils in it. And when it just sits, and it'll just deteriorate away. And then when it loses all that oil, it starts to crack. And when it's at that point, it's really not even usable as a baseball mitt. So, before it gets to that point, I'd love to get my hands on it and turn it into something for you.
Right on.
Now, were there any topics or anything that we didn't bring up that maybe you wanted to discuss before we wind down the podcast?
Yeah, and I kind of mentioned it before, but if there's anybody out there who's looking to start their own business and wants to do it baseball related or whatever, or just want to be a business owner, I really encourage you to go out and do it and just go wholeheartedly into it, because I can attest to that. I've had people who are in my camp telling me, don't quit your day job. Be secure with a job, and I kind of rebelled against that idea, and said, hey, I'm going to make this dream work. And so it's always been a dream for me to work for myself, and thankfully I am doing this every day of my life. I get to do what I love. I get to take apart old baseball mitts because it started with an idea at one point, and no doubt it's been some rocky times in there, but I have a great support system, and people around me who just love me and love what I'm doing and are fully supported. And so I would just like to say, if you've got any sort of want and desire to do your own business, just to go into it wholeheartedly.
That's excellent, because it's really encouraging. I mean, Tyler and I, we started this podcast as just kind of like a hobby thing where, we're talking about something we love, and it kind of blossomed from there. And from this, like, him and I have had different ideas, like, especially working with some of these people that, with their products and their company, and, you sending this to us, it's just like, man, this all came from an idea, and we're around baseball and softball every single day with our kids, right, whether we're watching it on TV or, we're watching our kids play or coaching. And like, we know enough about it where it's like, we could probably develop something ourselves that's not out there right now, because we have all these other tools. There might be something like, hey, you know what, this is missing. And I think it's really encouraging you say that, man, because even though right now this is not Tyler and I's gig, like our full-time job right now, it's still like that idea kind of gets you pumping. I think kids and teenagers and people in college right now, you shouldn't have to decide what you're going to be for the rest of your life at the age of 18. I think that's crazy. Obviously, I'm not telling people not to go to college or anything like that, but always have that spark in you, whether it's working for yourself or you're thinking of an idea and passing on to somebody else. I just think that's awesome, man. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, I agree. I love what you guys are doing. There are a few baseball podcasts out there, and I think you guys are doing something different. So that's why I wanted to jump on here, take the opportunity to talk with you two. I think it's really neat what you're doing.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. I mean, if somebody we do a little bit of it, but if people want to get score updates on what we really think, they can kind of just turn on Sports Center and listen to it on repeat for the next 9 hours, or turn on Baseball Tonight, I mean, so for us to connect, people with great ideas, great products, great information, it's kind of the least we can do in a way, actually. I mean, we have sons and daughters both that play baseball and softball. So, we kind of started this to create like an informational library for ourselves and for them and for other people, to connect to. So 100%. Here's something we love to ask. If you could go back and tell your teenage self, 14, 15, 16, anything, what advice would you give yourself then?
That when you go play college ball, there's going to be some sort of hardship. I think when you're at the top of your game in high school, and you're doing really well, you kind of don't realize that college ball's gonna be hard. And I wish I would have told myself to not give up. I think one of my biggest regrets is that when I quit my second year of college ball, I was so done, and there was a part of me that just, in this hardship, just said, I'm done, I'm out, I'm going to Alaska. And there's part of me that just said, persevere, because in what I'm doing right now, there's been some hardship, and I've persevered, and I wish I would have done that when I was, in college. I guess that's not 16, but in that era of my life, that's what I'd say.
Excellent. And the talk of, connecting people to stories and, it's businesses and tools and things like that. That's one of the things we love with our podcast. So we want to ask you this: if you could think of any one person for us to reach out to bring onto the show to add value to our listeners, who would that person be?
Yeah, I do have one guy in mind. I don't know if you guys have talked to him, but there's a guy named Will that runs a company called Huntington Baseball Company. He's in kind of the Boston area. I've been to his workshop. And so I don't know if people know this, but most of the Major League Baseballs aren't manufactured in America. Most of the baseballs are made down in Haiti or China or wherever. And so Will's the kind of the last guy who's hand making baseballs, from start to finish, which is kind of a cool thing. And so, like I said, I've been in his shop. I've seen him, stitch a baseball together, which gets kind of me, gets me pumping, because that's kind of what I do. I, hand stitch, and he's hand making baseballs.
That's super cool. I would love to honor. I mean, see, this is the kind of unique thing that this podcast has allowed us to do, is to talk to people like you and him that are just doing things that no otherwise would we have any reason to really search out for this information, unless maybe it popped up on a sponsored ad or something to go buy this product or buy that. I mean, but the craftsmanship that is kind of a dying thing in this world still gives me hope that there's still some of you out there doing it.
Yeah, completely. And and it's funny how this podcast works. I followed Jay from Pickle the Beast, and how I found out about you guys is through his interview. So I was like, wow, I gotta listen to these guys when I'm working. So I hope this does the same, that my following gets to see you guys and spread the word.
We appreciate it. And if you can, for our listeners, I know you brought up the website, but can you just bring it up again, and then your social media where people can find you if they have any information and can reach out to you to get more?
Yeah, so my website is mackprovisions.com, and I'm mostly on Instagram. I do a little bit of Facebook, but mostly on Instagram at Mack Provisions. And that's spelled M-A-C-K.
All right. Awesome, man. Well, we got one more question for you. We really appreciate you coming on here. And I love asking this question. But before I do so, I'm going to give a little love to one of our partners here. This goes out to the Rope Bat. The Rope Bat is the answer for those who are serious about the game by teaching a swing that maximizes centrifugal force and total body connected movement. The result is greater speed, strength, and consistency for the hitter. Just go to theropebat.com and enter the promo code GYP10 for 10% off of your entire purchase at checkout. So, Casey, if you had one at bat in the major leagues, what song would you choose for your walk-up song to the plate?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and steal this from my little brother Corey. This is his walk out to the mound song, and it was Return of the Mack by Mark Morrison.
Love it.
Yeah, since our last name is Mack, that it seems just kind of perfect.
I love it.
1996 coming at you, everybody.
Boom.
Love it, though.
Right on.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Casey. We really enjoyed it. We appreciate you sending out the card holders for us. I just smelled it again, and I love it. And I look forward to watching your success blossom here in the next few years. We'll definitely reach back out to you again and get you back on the show.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, keep up the fantastic work. It's incredible. The craftsmanship is real. It's genuine. I hope some of our listeners go check out your stuff because it definitely deserves a look. And if you're on the fence and think that it's not worth it, just do it, because it's not something you're going to just find on any shelf in any store, honestly. So thank you again for doing this, joining us, talking to us, and look forward to catching up with you down the road.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate the kind words, and thanks again.
No problem. See you later, man.
We'll see you.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Casey. I think what he's doing right now is so cool. I've never seen it done before. I know he said there's some other people that are doing it. I think
I haven't
it's
seen
awesome. And I'm going to dig my glove out. And since he said Mickey Mantle is one of his favorite ones to work on, I think it's just kind of a match made in heaven there.
I know.
So
How cool is that?
yeah, I'm gonna send it out because it's doing is just getting dust.
Yeah.
That's it. So
Super cool.
make sure you check us out on all things social media at Going Yard Podcast and on Twitter at GY Podcast. And you can also support the podcast if you like what we're doing week in and week out, and you want to help support us and what we are doing to help the ship move along. Go to patreon.com/Going Yard Podcast. And you can find out how you can help us out. And we greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, we couldn't do this without your support. You can find all of the links that Dan was talking about on our website, goingyardpodcast.com. You can also find all the affiliate links to shop and save some money on some of the best products out there in the baseball, softball market. On there also, you'll find all the places to download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Podbean, and Google Play. Like and subscribe to us. That way we can climb those podcast rankings.
Hey, you also just added a new link onto our site with the performance.
Yes.
Why don't you talk about that?
Yes. On our website, if you toggle to the top and click on the little menu button, we have a page called GYP Performance on there. You can go in there and you can find all of the demo videos on all of the products that we talk about on this podcast week in and week out, and some of our affiliates with the stuff they're selling and what the product specifically can be used for and how you can use it to get better. It's fantastic information. We're going to start pushing some of that page out to a little bit more often. That way people can find out a little bit more about what we're talking about.
That's right. So that's a wrap for this episode. We appreciate you guys coming back every single week to check us out. So for KC Mack and Mack Provisions and all of us here at the Going Yard Podcast, I'm Dan.
And I'm Tyler. See ya.
Later.